Okay, there we go.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, so let's start. You are at Idea to Action, how to turn your community passion into a Drupal community project. A couple of housekeeping things. Most of the images on the slide deck are decorative. They don't enhance the mood or add any context to what I talk about. But if they do, I'll describe them. And then I have 2 links up on the screen. They're both bit.ly links, bit.ly. One is slash uppercase DCEU dash idea in lowercase, and that will give you a copy of the slide deck to follow along. There's some really great links at the end of it. And then the second bit.ly link, transcriptions dash idea dash to dash actions, will open up live AI transcriptions for folks that need that to follow along. Before I start, I want to talk about where I live. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, but it is the Ohlone lands. And I want to quote Northwestern's land acknowledgement statement. It's important to understand the longstanding history that brought you to reside on the land and to seek to understand your place within that history. Land acknowledgements do not exist in past tense or historical context. Colonialism is current, ongoing, and we need to build our mindfulness of our present participation. Okay, so it wouldn't be me if I didn't remind folks that we have contributions this like maybe it's this afternoon. Time zones are confusing, but we do have general contributions after the programming today, and we also have mentored contributions at that same time. My name is Amy June Heinlein. I use the pronouns she and her. I am a hospice nurse by trade, but that isn't relevant for this program. I help organize accessibility talks, A11Y talks. It's an online meetup where we talk about all things accessibility. I'm a mentor for several open source projects, including Drupal and WordPress. I help on the WordPress diversity team with speaker training. So we introduce new speakers with diverse voices into our community. And I'm also a Pantheon hero, and we'll hear a little bit more about that later in the show. I work for Canopy. Canopy is a digital agency. We build and support websites for clients who want to make a positive impact. And we're looking for all kinds of creative folks. So if y'all are in design or UX, hit me up in Slack or on LinkedIn, and we can talk about Canopy more. So today we'll briefly talk about why we contribute, some of the reasons or some of the benefits of contributions. We'll look at some existing projects, including Drupal initiatives, and then some community projects that were passions in our projects. And then before I give a demo, I want to give a little bit of background information for folks about the attribution system and the credits. And during that demo, we're going to create a community project, and we're going to look at an existing community project's issue queue and how they give attributions. So why contribute? Simply put, if you depend on open source depends on you. Your contributions are valued. Not everyone uses Drupal or approaches the community in the same way or even the same level of engagement. And that's okay. And that's really perfect because everyone's unique perspective is important when building products and community. You get what you give and then some. Practicing and improving your skills, and we're talking about things not only in code, but your leadership and management skills. Drupal provides incentives through attributions, and these incentives can help drive more contributions. And then my favorite part of contributing is that it makes me feel like I'm a bigger part of the Drupal community. Now there's another reason to go to those camps and cons, contribution day, I've met people with similar interests. I've built relationships and friendships and a network that's lasted a lifetime. So you're an individual and you work at an agency. How do you convince your agency that sponsored contribution is important? Back to that, if you depend on open source depends on you. Companies who consume Drupal as a free open source project most certainly should give back. They should see and appreciate the value of helping each other and also appreciate others. When our agencies and our organizations give back, it helps with duplicating effort and redundancy as well. In the tech industry, using and contributing to open source is widely seen as good corporate citizenship, and it's really a part of a firm's social responsibility. It's fun and rewarding to work with the smartest people in the Drupal community, so it helps with employee retention, and it goes back to that, simply put, the more you give back, the more you get back. And this is definitely reflected when potential employees and partners view the agency's attributions and profiles. So talk a little bit about, a community project. These are community projects and initiatives that already exist. Say you're not ready to open up your own community project. There's lots of ways that we can give back in community ways. There's the Promote Drupal program. It has one main purpose: to create business and marketing materials targeted to the decision makers who choose to adopt Drupal for their business, making sure that people know that Drupal is fresh and that we're better than our competitors. And there's a few different roles that people play in the Promote Drupal program. There's Drupal Ambassadors. They're looking for opportunities to promote Drupal in other communities and at conferences outside of our little bubble. Typically, the time commitment is 2 hours a week in the lead up to a specific event. There's the marketing lead. If you're passionate about Drupal's innovation and want to highlight the work of the project's initiatives, this requires a little bit more time and effort, especially around our contributions events. There's the social media team. If you want to improve Drupal's social media presence on an ongoing basis, they recommend a time commitment of 2 hours. And then there's the Drupal evaluator marketing team. If you want to improve Drupal's onboarding experiences for evaluators. Drupal mentoring, have you contributed before? Consider mentoring. If you have some experience contributing, you can help others get started by being a mentor, either online or when things kind of go back, doing it in person. And mentors really inspire, enable, and encourage new core contributors. We work on core tools and the process of mentoring. And the team is a working group that supports mentors on a daily basis. We organize follow-up activities and we help the Drupal Association manage mentoring in the community. Working with others on a shared project means you'll have to explain how to do things, as well as ask people for help. And the acts of learning and teaching can be a really fulfilling activity for everyone involved. And we meet generally once a month in the mentoring channel in Slack. And there's a few jobs here. There's a page on Drupal.org, a contributor guide with contributor areas. There's a community tools lead that helps train mentors on what tools are available. There's the workshop lead. They update the workshop as needed as new tooling and new processing comes about, and they help with presenting or recording it. There's a novice issue triage lead. We recruit volunteers to triage issues. So we have issues for folks to work on during the mentored contribution event. There's the major issue triage lead. And this recruits mentors and trains them how to triage major Drupal core issues. There's an event planning lead, much to its name, you coordinate the contribution event. And this is not only at DrupalCon, but this can be at the meetup level. It can be for something like global training days in January. It can be at your local camp like Bad Camp or Florida Camp. Your mentoring room lead, this is the person who supports mentors at the contribution event. There's a communications lead, you coordinate with volunteers. The mentoring booth, I love the mentoring booth because I like to talk to people. That's generally, sitting out there in the expo hall and talking to people about what mentoring is and kind of hooking them in and coming to help at the event. And then, of course, there's documentation. Discover Drupal is Drupal Association's new initiative to unlock opportunities for people who have been unrepresented or historically excluded from our open source community. We share knowledge and expertise with an underrepresented student in Discover Drupal. And this ties back to the mentoring slide that the Discover Drupal program is always looking for mentors. Here we see Kevin pointing to the button. The Drupal Recording Initiative makes the recording of Drupal and related talks at camps and summits and meetups easy, turnkey, affordable, and available. Kevin is not the only person recording sessions, but he's definitely the loudest and the most prolific and your best point of contact if you want to get involved. And there's roles for this too, training and mentorship, improved camp support, and ongoing recruitment. We'd really like to expand coverage. We want to ship kits and cover more than just North American camps. We want to improve documentation. We're moving the docs into GitHub and adding visuals. The goal of the project too is to have a higher recording success rate, and that means prepping volunteers a little bit better and having contributors for on-site coverage. Funding is something that we would like streamlined. Overall organization, better the tools, and we would love to have collaboration on how we can do that. And then, of course, there's that content discoverability, making sure that all of our recordings are curated and tagged and captioned. There's no traditional channel to meet in Slack, but you can do @KevinThul in Drupal Slack and find the way to best help them there. The event organizers working group is concerned with supporting community-led events with Drupal. It really supports community-led, especially through the local events. We have meetups, we have camps, we have Drupalcons. Meetups are your more informal gathering of individuals interested in Drupal, and it's really aimed at building local knowledge and community. And then we have the camps, which is kind of a natural extension of the meetups, 1 to 2 day events that focus on Drupal and bring more people in from that geographical area. And then there's Drupalcons. We have DrupalCon Europe, DrupalCon North America, and DrupalCon Asia. These are the global or continent level gatherings, which typically run for a couple of days. They include contribution events, some aspect of training, keynotes, the Dries note, and DrupalCons are organized by professional event planners in conjunction with the DA, but they're always looking for volunteers. And then, for your local meetups or camps, there's plenty of stuff to do. I have a long laundry list here. I don't need to talk about what all the different roles that you can do once you volunteer at a camp, but there is something for everyone. The community working group, the mission of this group, sometimes you'll hear it referenced as the CWG, is to foster a friendly and welcoming community of the Drupal project and to uphold the code of conduct. Sometimes when some folks think about the community working group, the CWG, they think of the conflict resolution team, but the CWG really is more dynamic than that. The conflict resolution team does exist, and they act as a group to maintain documentation and processes, and they focus on the health of the community. But there's also the community health team, which focuses on the health of the community. They have event support, they have ambassadors, and they have subject matter experts. And the community working group is actively looking for folks that want to be a part of the community health team, especially during COVID. We've noticed people might need a little bit more support with mental health. So running workshops, creating blog posts, creating resources for people. So think about the CWG. And they do have a space in Drupal Slack. I think it's community-health. Oh, yeah, it's right there on the slide, community-health. Content moderation. This is an overlooked part of contributing to Drupal, and it's kind of a quick and easy way to get in there and do a task and get out. There's not much issue triage you need to do to kind of jump into these moderation roles. There's the site moderator queue. This is a project with an issue tracker. And among other things, there's people report user account problems. Maybe they were marked as spam, or they want to report spam or request a confirmed account on Drupal.org. And then there's the content moderation queue, Drupal.org content. It's for reporting problems and ask for non-documentation content, such as marketplace listing, front page posts, case studies, Planet Drupal feed. And then along in that same queue, people are looking to have reviews on their case studies, on hosting, on book listings, on making sure their blog feed is included in Planet Drupal. Organizational profiles need to be reviewed, service listing, training listing. So I encourage folks, if you just have a couple of minutes, go in there, find one issue, review it, and then it opens it up for that book listing or case study or organization page to be listed on Drupal.org. And for more ideas, there's actually an idea queue out there. People have ideas about Drupal all the time, and there's a queue where they can put in their ideas and get feedback. People want to talk about, privacy. The Project Browser initiative was started in the queue, Easy Out of the Box and Alvaro. They all started as an idea. So if you're not sure your idea will take traction, there's a queue where you can start having a discussion around it. And then I want to look at how some people in our community took their passions and turned them into Drupal.org community projects. The folks over at Talking Drupal. Talking Drupal is a weekly podcast where they love Drupal, and they talk about Drupal and web development and Drupal adjacent technology, and they run a podcast, like I said, every week. And they have a community queue where they give attributions for not only hosting, but for people who come onto the show as guest speakers as well. Accessibility Talks, Ally Talks. This is a project I help with. We are dedicated to promoting community discussions on a variety of accessibility issues. We're not exactly Drupal, but we're Drupal adjacent, and we put on high quality content. And it takes us a whole month to put on a show. And so we've opened a community project around that. Damian McKenna from Media Current hosts the Contrib Half Hours every Thursday. They were started to be a support group for the Drupal community, and they meet every half an hour and discuss every week for half an hour and discuss different topics. And meetings are open to anyone who wishes to join them. When I gave this talk in Drupal Fest, I opened the issue queue for DevQuest, and this is through the folks who bring us Lando. DevQuest is a podcast about the career journey of the modern web developer. So they put on monthly podcasts where they have people come on and talk about the journey it took into Drupal. Drupal Camp Asheville, we opened the Drupal Coffee Exchange queue. For those who don't know about the Drupal Coffee Exchange, we have quarterly coffee exchanges where we ship people coffee, but it does take effort to put that on. So we decided to open a Drupal Community Project because Drupal Coffee brings people together. We not only host BOFs, but we also have meetups, and networking is an important part of Drupal. So if we look at all of these projects we have up here, we had a couple of meetups, we had a couple of podcasts, and we have this Drupal Coffee project. And people often ask, like, well, what kind of project is appropriate? That's really up to you. If you're bringing people together, if you're contributing to the longevity of the Drupal project, and that includes community, because sometimes people's first exposure to Drupal is through the community. So we want to make sure that these people that take the time to create these community programs are attributed, because the community programs are just as important, if not more important, than the code. And before I go into the demo, I want to speak a little bit about the attribution process. There's a wall of text up here. I'll break it down. So these are attributions and credits for code issues. This is to give it a little bit of context of where we've come from in the past. We always want to assume good intentions from each contributor. All of us started as beginners, and we know that there's always a learning process. So I put some examples up here of types of contributions that should be recognized when we close out issues. Creating a well-written issue that describes a problem or a bug. Proposing a solution, either ideating on it in the comment queue, or putting your solution up in the form of a patch or a merge request. You can review or test the patch or merge request. You can add screenshots of the problem and the solution, and then of course adding documentation. So when we think about our code issues, I've seen in the past where only the person who puts the patch up gets an attribution, but there's a whole life cycle of the issue. You can't have a patch get merged in if it wasn't reviewed. And then, if you didn't know there was a problem, you wouldn't have a patch to merge in. So I'm encouraging people to think about the whole life cycle and how everyone's skill sets are utilized when we work on code issues. And then let's talk about attributions and credits for community projects. Remember, this is a manual process and it's not guaranteed to happen flawlessly. So we do need to remember to give our volunteers and maintainers a little grace and assume positive motivations as well. But, I have some listed, creating promotional materials, doing project management of the issue queue, any volunteers, like SF Doug, we have volunteers every month help us out. You give attributions around documentation, promotional materials, marketing, and then the organization of the event of the project as well. Things like, making sure that your event is posted on events pages, or that you have a host, or that, someone set up the room, that kind of thing. So now I'm going to, there's two parts left here. I want to actually create a community project. And I'm not going to create a meta issue, but I'm going to show a project that has a really good issue queue already set up. And I'm going to talk a little bit about giving attributions. So at this point in time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and both me and McKenna will come on. Maybe. Okay, so me and McKenna are going to come on, because the project we're actually going to open is for the Pantheon Hero program. And I'm part of this program and I really appreciate it. But I thought having McKenna on here, who sort of organizes it, would make more sense, like to tell you about the project and why we think it's a good candidate for a community project.
Thank you, Amy June. I really appreciate it. Well, to kick things off, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I mean, wherever you're calling in from, we're from all over the place. I'm actually here in Phoenix, Arizona, so it's 12:30 a.m. I will say coffee and Drupal sounds amazing right about now, but so does sleep. Like Amy June said, my name is McKenna Regetz, and I actually am the manager of community programs here at Pantheon. Obviously, I could not be more excited and honored to share part of this presentation with Amy June, who has become a dear friend, but is also one of our beloved and most devoted Pantheon heroes. For those of you who do not know much about our Heroes program, I'm just going to kind of give you a really brief overview of what the program is. And I think it's a great segue into, taking on the whole idea of giving back and having more opportunities to give back to open source, which is really what we do with this program. So our Heroes program actually launched back in 2019. The main focus is really supporting and enabling our most active community members who willingly devote their time to give back to open source projects, both on and off the Pantheon platform. So this could be through code, node, and non-code contributions. So kind of a little bit of everything. When our heroes are not contributing, obviously, to the greater good of the open web, they are likely sharing their love for Pantheon every chance they get. So, much like this, speaking at conferences, networking at events, things like that. Oftentimes they're out there really just sharing their love for our platform, which we obviously appreciate as well. But in return, really, for all their contributions, obviously back to us helping write blogs and code contributions, all those other great things, in return, really for helping make the open web a better place, our heroes receive a lot of really awesome perks. One of those being a basic site on Pantheon. So that's up to like a $500 value, which is pretty decent. They get exclusive swag, access to roadmap reviews with our product team and some of our founders, which is exciting. Free tickets to events and conferences like Drupalcon Europe. So that's awesome, a really, really great perk. And then my favorite for my world travelers out there, our heroes also get $1,000 travel stipend so they can actually do what they enjoy most, which is, of course, sharing open source with others. So, kind of taking the segue in here, what does it take to become a hero? It's super simple, really. We have 3 requirements for our heroes. The first one is plain and simple. You love helping other people. You're active in the WordPress and Drupal communities, much like Amy June is here. So you're just someone who's super eager to jump in and lend a helping hand anytime you can get. Slack, forum, in person, through contribution days, whatever it might be. The second one is that you just love in general contributing to the open source or open web. That's pretty self-explanatory. And then the third one, like I said, is really that you love Pantheon. You've either used our platform before or you've worked with clients that have used our platform before, but you love the product, you love it so much that you want to go and tell others about it. So it's kind of just a little brief overview of like what the program is. I want to leave time, obviously, for the demo here and then for a Q&A. So if you're interested, obviously, in learning more about the program, I'll go ahead and drop my information in the chat as well so we can connect anytime you would like. I will also put in the Pantheon community forum and Slack for you guys. And then also, if you feel inclined and you want to apply for hero status, I'll drop that in there as well. But with that being said, there's tons of really great opportunities out there. I'm going to pass it back over to Amy June to share a short demo and hopefully answer some questions here at the very end.
Thank you, McKenna. I am going to share my screen. Maybe. I never know what is going to be showing. So what do y'all see? Nope, that isn't it. Okay, let's try again. I have the malfunction in life where I have too many tabs open at all times. Let's see.
Hey, that's all of us, I think.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. This should be my community page. And what I like to start here all the time for different reasons. This is sort of my landing page when I start working on Drupal in the morning, because there's a lot of useful things on our profile pages, you know, you have your dashboard, which takes you to the issue queues and different things that you're working on. But we're talking about a community project. And right up here, there's a space where if you select your projects, mine's going to look a little bit different than yours because I organize different projects than you, and you may not have any projects. So you can see here all of the projects that I help with. And right down here at the bottom of the list, there's a button that says Add New Project. So we're going to select that. And this is essentially how you create a project. Drupal core, of course, we're not going to open a Drupal core project. A distribution is a set of modules and themes for the look and the feel of the website. And this isn't a distribution. There's general projects, you know, these could be your modules or like APIs and things like that. You have the module projects, you have a theme, but this is the one that we're going to look at today is the community project. So I'm going to select that. And what that's going to do is it's going to open up a form field for us. And it's pretty straightforward, you know, create a community project. And we're going to open a community project for Pantheon Heroes. So I have stuff in another doc, so I'm just going to copy and paste. So the project name is Pantheon Hero. The short name, I think, can be Pantheon Hero, but if that changes, we'll you know, if it throws an error, we'll change that at the end. We're going to open a full project. The project page looks a lot better when we have an image. So I do have an image on my desktop called Pantheon. Here we go, Pantheon Heroes. We're going to upload it. This section down here for project classification. Our project's going to be actively maintained. We're opening it with a purpose, but say later on down the road, you just don't work on it as much, or maybe it's a code base that's antiquated. You know, some of these other checkboxes might be appropriate. Development status, this is really more online if it was a code project, but some of the metadata kind of crosses the scale of the projects. And we're going to say we're under active development because we do want to work on it all the time. And then we have this description field here. Again, I have it copy and pasted. So what I like to do is I like to include a general description of a project that just sort of tells what the project is about. And then I also like to include the purpose of the project because it helps the community understand the why behind the what. So I, for the sake of brevity, again, have it on a text file, and I'm just going to paste it in. You know, our general description is our Pantheon Heroes is a group of Pantheon advocates who are dedicated to improving the open web. And I go on a little bit, but then I also, like I said, I define the purpose, and the purpose is to help facilitate community, open source community growth. Heroes are folk that truly share the Pantheon mission to make the open web a better place. And then I also like to include some helpful links. Our supporting agencies down here, of course, we're going to say Pantheon, and autocomplete is always our friend. How they helped, they created the program, and all of this can be edited after the fact. In this tabular data down here, a lot of this goes back to the days of these coded projects. So some of these aren't going to make sense. But this component aspect, we're going to change this up a little bit because this isn't a code project. It's a marketing project. So we're going to have a marketing component. The Pantheon Heroes train a lot of people in the community. They'll help with global training days, and that's something that we would like to attribute our heroes for. And then they also have missions. If you become a Pantheon hero, they'll sort of put aside issues for people and different things that are important in the community, and they call them mission. So we changed the components to kind of reflect a little bit more on our project. If we had a documentation page, we would add it here. We don't need to talk about the book outline or anything like that. But because of who I am, I'm going to do one quick last little check to make sure I have everything. And I don't. So I'm going to add Pantheon. Hero logo. And I'm going to hit save. Okay, so remember I said I wasn't sure how the short name worked, so we edited that. Now we'll hit save. PHP naming convention, maybe that's underscore. Gotta love live demos. Okay, so here we have it. We have opened a Pantheon Hero Community Project. Some of this stuff you won't see, but we see we have a logo, we have a description of the project, we have that purpose, we have a bunch of helpful links for folks. We can see that Pantheon created the program. And then over here, we can see that we've begun an issue queue. One thing we didn't add was we want to add maintainers to our projects. So I'm a maintainer because I created the program, but I also want to, include the folks at Pantheon who actually do all of the work. So I'm going to add their names in, and I'm going to give them all the permissions. That way in the issue queue, they can actually give credits. And one more. Okay, so now that we've created the project, we've added maintainers because the maintainers need to go in there and create issues and give attributions. You can see when we view the page, we have the issue queue on the side, and we just opened it. So if we open the issue queue, you can see that there's no issues, but it's pretty straightforward. You click on, create the issue, and you create the issue, and there's a form field that comes up with lots of metadata. For the sake of brevity, I do want to show the San Francisco Drupal Users Project page. This is a Drupal users meetup that meets in San Francisco once a month. So you can see we have sort of that same information. We have information about where we meet. We have a logo, where you can find us on Slack, who supports the project, but we also have an open issue queue. So if we go into this issue queue, I think we've done a really good job at defining what attributions mean in our issue queue. So every month we put on a meetup, and so we create a meta issue. So the November 9th or November 11th meetup, you can see we created this meta issue. We have the title, we have information about it, but we also created these child issues to go along with it, because when we talk about something like a meetup, there's lots of dynamic parts of the meetup. There's the organization and the finding the people, but there's also the speaking, the hosting, the sponsors, the marketing. And so we've created a ticketing system where we do child issues. So you can see here, we have a marketing issue, a video production and upload issue, and an event posting issue. And if we go in here and look at one of these child issues, you can kind of see it looks the same as a regular issue, but when we provided metadata, we tied it to that parent issue down here below. So you can group issues like you would like your workflow for work, where all your tickets are connected. And that's how we do it sort of in this space. Is we have the one meta issue of the meetup, and then we create child issues. And like I said, because there's a lot to do, just for this marketing, you can tell that promotions through various Slack channels, we have all these Slack channels we want to post. We want to post in LinkedIn. We want to do promotions through Facebook. We want to do promotions through Twitter. So marketing isn't a task that just takes a couple of minutes. It can take, hours, a month, and we want to make sure that we celebrate those wins with people, so, how much you break down an issue and how much you give attributions for is up to you. But I encourage you reading the documentation on Drupal.org about how and why we give attributions. But I really encourage you to think outside of that box that we've been thinking about with these code contributions, because again, many times access to the community or access to the Drupal project is through the community first. And we want to make sure that people are recognized for those efforts. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And we're almost at time, but if anyone has any questions about the process or want to reach out to me and McKenna, or you can reach out to McKenna about the Pantheon Hero program, or reach out to me about, an idea. Because a lot of times people will come up and it's like, I have this idea, but I don't know. And I want to encourage people that just because, well, let's back up a little bit. I found that just because people don't need permission to open a community project, sometimes they want the permission, just that little bit of edge that kind of pushes them over the side. I don't see anything in Q&A, but feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm at Volkswagen Chick, VOLKSWAGENCHICK. You'd think I'd pick a shorter handle, but that's okay. But you can find me all across, and I'll be at DrupalCon all day and helping with the mentored contribution space later in the day. Thank you, McKenna.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun. I've learned quite a few things already from you. Continue to learn from everybody here in DrupalCon. I'm excited. It's my second time here. So I'm also going to catch some sessions after this before I fall asleep.
Me too. Okay. Thanks, everyone, for coming.
Bye, all. Thank you so much.